Morning, Steve. Morning, Paul. Morning, Trinidad and Tobago. And good morning, listeners and viewers all over the globe. It's Monday morning, Monday, June 5th. I'm not even sure what type of morning it is outside, but it was a very rainy, stormy weekend, especially here in Arima.
Morning, guys. Morning, Trinidad Tobago Defense Force.
Trying to be a good defense force. Oh, you mean that story you just read? Is it Coast Guard officers?
TT Defense Force.
Wow. I saw it, I read it sometime yesterday on social media, and I saying what I saw pictures of the person, and I said wow. Oh no, you know what? I think I saw it in yesterday's Guardian, the online version of the Guardian. That somewhere, I think it might have been there I saw it, and I was shocked. I said wow, wow. Anyway, $75,000 reward for that, for what?
For the weapon which disappeared,
Oh,
which I'm sure they can get $200,000 for on the streets. Make sense?
yeah.
Let me tell you what's disturbing about it. We could jump right into the news this morning, unless Wendell has birthdays he like to go through first.
I actually do. Lisa Gonzalez Rudd. Lisa Rudd Gonzalez. Lisa Sergeant Gonzalez. Sorry. What a
Lisa
Lisa.
Sergeant Gonzalez Rudd.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Born in Lisa. Lisa was my neighbor growing up in St. James. Yeah, the Sergeant family is from right around the corner from us. They are from Carlton Avenue in St. James.
Her mother was very popular with the Family Planning Association, Hetty Sergeant,
Yeah, Hetty Sergeant.
at one
Hetty
point,
Sergeant.
before I think she retired.
It was Howard Chinley yesterday too.
Okay.
Yeah, Howard Chinley's birthday was yesterday too. Yeah. So,
But there's several things wrong with that story. Clearly, procedure has in many ways is broken down at that camp because I know there are strict procedures and protocols involved in acquiring weapons and signing for weapons in the armory. When you sign for a weapon, you are solely responsible for that weapon. And to say I mean, the story is bizarre to say the least. And of course, they rushed to a press conference yesterday. I'll just read the story again.
okay, well, I'm clearly not I'm clearly not okra with this story. Is it the story of the rape and beating of
No,
the 30
no,
man?
no, no.
Oh, oh. So I don't know about this story you're talking about.
So, an officer on the 3rd of June, attached to Tetron Barracks, signed out for an AR rifle, which he received and subsequently secured. He left the compound and returned sometime later and found the weapon was missing. How you leave the weapon unsecured? Because if you signed off for the weapon,
You have it with you.
you cannot leave that weapon unless you take it back to the armory or leave. You understand? It clearly protocols are broken down. Clearly. So he must be under house arrest or something now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't know that story.
I'll get the video of the press conference or the piece of press conference in a short while,
So the army did a press conference.
together with the police.
Okay. Also, they're trying now to find the weapon.
I would imagine so, and then
So where did he leave the weapon? Somewhere on the base? Where did the weapon disappear from him? Was it on the base?
But he said he left it and left the base. So if he left the base and came back and found it was missing, clearly he left it on the base.
Right.
We must have put it under his pillow.
Well,
He must have put it under his pillow.
Did you have cameras and so on the base? Like external cameras? I would imagine they wouldn't have in the dorms, but they would have external cameras now. And an AR rifle is not something you can put in your pocket or your waist.
And then you're asking some very salient questions. But why did the officer leave the weapon unattended?
Well, clearly something must have happened. He had a lapse in judgment. It's probably not the first time it has happened with an officer and won't be the last.
Let me tell you what's interesting about this. They came before the JSC National Security a couple of weeks ago. The Chief of Defense Staff, Darrell Dindial, when questions were asked about reports in the media of ammunition,
Darrell Dindial is not the Chief of Defense Staff. That's the CPO. Darrell Dindial is the CPO. He's not the Chief of Defense Staff. There's another name. I think it's a Daniel.
Darrell Daniel, sorry, you're right. Yeah. My mistake. Yeah. Darrell Daniel. Right. And they said, yes, Darrell Daniel, yes. And they said to the JSC, when questions were raised about media reports indicating ammunition with TT Defense Force insignia have been found in several different crime scenes. They said they had 90% completed an investigation and all their ammunition was accounted for. Meanwhile, police had a different story in it. And they had not yet collaborated while full investigations into missing ammunition going on in both the TTPS and the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force. Fast forward, not even a month later, and an AR rifle is missing. You're all playing the fool. Because if an AR rifle could go missing, ammunition has been going missing.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
By logical deduction. So big rush and lockdown the camp yesterday and a rush to a press conference because somebody in there, the information had gone viral about the missing weapon. So they had to do the quick damage control. You understand?
Yeah, which is unusual. This is unusual for the army.
Very unusual.
Yeah.
Very unusual. And to host a press conference. Hold on. Let me just get it up. A press conference without the Minister of National Security. Because usually the Minister of National Security would be at those kinds of press conferences. Am I wrong?
Yeah. No, you're not wrong.
Fitzy said not me. You understand?
Yeah.
You don't have to say it for it to be true, Steve. We're aware.
So who was the police officer accompanying them at the press conference?
Well, Claire Guy James was there on a different issue because there was another. Clearly, this was directed to me. Police and army don't have no press conference in an odd way, just so the Minister of National Security must say, all you need is just put too much chip on this, go and handle your business.
Right.
You understand?
So Claire Guy Allen was there with the issue of the Venezuelan woman being beaten.
That's right, because she's the head of the police victims and I'm getting the right thing. Yes. I have the full cup of coffee in my head this morning.
Yeah, it was gender-based violence.
Gender-based violence unit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? So they had a joint press conference that there was two major developments yesterday. And it is because in a real sense, that army information, missing rifle information in defense went viral. And people were saying, there we go.
Right.
They had to create some sort of stability where that is concerned. Now, I'm going to play the video now. I just want to preface the video. I got the video online. And the video has something that I can't confirm on it. So please ignore that. I will say that in advance. The video has a graphic on it that that says soldier steals gun or something like that. We cannot confirm that, right?
Okay.
So I'm telling the audience that in advance before I play the video.
Right.
So you don't go away with the information that we have confirmed that is what happened. But I don't know that a civilian could walk around the camp either
Well,
I would
true.
also state that.
True.
Because if a civilian walk around the camp and confiscate the weapon or steal the weapon, or they have more problems,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? So the graphic is not that far off.
Mhm.
Unless they want to say so, they misplaced the weapon and after they lock down the camp, they still can't find it. Whew.
Public. As indicated, I am Lieutenant Colonel Ashok Singh. I am the acting commanding officer of the Trinidad and Tobago Regiment, and I was alerted early this morning of a missing Galil assault rifle from the Support and Services Battalion, Tetran Barracks in Chaguaramas. At approximately 12:30 hours this morning, the orderly officer, who is the senior person on duty at Tetran Barracks, was alerted by a person who was on duty and would have been assigned a Galil assault rifle that his rifle was missing. The orderly officer immediately conducted the standard operating procedures or SOPs for such incidents and immediately confined Tetran Barracks. Tetran Barracks remains confined at this point in time as we continue the investigation. The orderly officer also conducted an immediate search of the location, started a preliminary investigation, and alerted her commanding officer. Earlier this morning, with the advent of more light, a thorough search was again conducted of the vicinity, but the Galil assault rifle was not found. We alerted the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, Western Division in particular, of the incident, and they are currently at Tetran Barracks working alongside us in conducting this investigation.
Well, that sounds serious because if they search their own compound and they're good at conducting their own investigations,
And the
and
compound ain't that big. So where did you leave the weapon? I left it in my bed under my pillow. Which bed is it? Which bunk is it? It's that bunk. It's not there now. Okay, why did you leave the weapon unattended and leave the compound without
yeah,
returning the weapon to the armory?
well,
This is very, very serious, huh?
well, it had
It's
to be
very,
serious
very
for
serious.
them to do a press conference like that and
Wendell, the press
involve the
conference was
police.
done because the information had gone viral.
And they involve the police.
Damage control.
The army generally don't involve the police in the business. You understand?
Public relations, damage control.
Yeah, they don't involve the police. That's
Okay?
strange that they would involve Western police in Western
Well, they
police.
have to because clearly some sort of breach of protocol and the weapon you're talking about
Well, they had to
that
be
may
they
or
had
may
to be
not be
they had
in
to
the
be
public
convinced that
domain.
the
The
crime.
weapon may be in the public, Wendell.
Right. So that was I say they had to be convinced
So
that
you
a
have to
crime
involve the police.
is a crime being committed
That's right.
as
The
opposed to
potential
just a
for crime.
missing rifle. You understand?
Precisely.
Right.
Because they handle their own disciplinary measures
Yeah,
internally.
yeah, they do the thing themselves. So it's very strange that they involve the police.
It's
Well,
not strange to involve the police because
yeah,
clearly there was information that some sort of potential crime may have taken place.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Because if the weapon is outside the camp,
yeah.
it means it is outside the camp illegally
Yes, yes, yes. I think
and
that,
could be in the hands of criminals.
yeah,
So
I
if
think
they
that,
told the JSC weeks ago that they account for all the
I mean,
ammunition, if ammunition, so why ammunition? If a gun gone missing, a big Galil rifle,
yeah,
which is no small weapon, you can't,
yeah,
even if they take it apart, there are parts that can't get too small.
yeah, yeah.
Why ammunition can't go missing? And this after I saw in the Guardian a couple of weeks ago, because I brought it up in the GSC also, of one of the two Cape class vessels was run aground and damaged. This is Coast Guard now. And an officer was given the option of, because of the presumed negligence, of resigning or facing court martial. And he's taking them to court now. It was published in the papers.
Okay.
And they had to be taken, in my information, up to Dominican Republic for repair. This is less than a year after the thing in service here. So what really going on in national security?
Well, certainly,
Coast
yeah,
Guard is confusion. Army is confusion. Police is confusion.
yeah, yeah. That
It ain't
that
looking too good, you know.
a boat must have come in and gone with a gun because if it didn't leave via the normal route. Well, I mean, I guess boats coming up to Tetron too is not abnormal.
Officer, you signed for the weapon. Why did you leave the weapon and leave the compound without the weapon being back in the armory?
Yeah. Did he say he left Tetron and went somewhere?
This is what the report said.
Okay.
He signed for the weapon, received and subsequently secured. He left Tetron compound and returned sometime later when he discovered the weapon missing.
So why that sounds crazy.
And when you think about it in a army sense, you can't really leave the compound with a weapon by yourself. Where you going and run by
No,
yourself?
no, I say you can't be going out on your own with a
So
weapon.
did you sign off duty and did not return the weapon to the armory? And and how often has this happened with other officers?
So
Were you, were you
was the media
disciplined
allowed
and
to
put
ask questions at the press conference?
No, I don't think so. I think it was an
Oh,
information press conference.
okay.
That's why I said it was a damage control PR press conference because the information about the missing weapon had already gone viral clearly from somebody inside of there. And now they're offering $75,000. It
Oh, they
have
offering a reward?
Yeah, 75,000, but the weapon, from my understanding, on the open market is worth more than that. You understand? What's-
Oh yes.
Five people lost their lives in the roads this weekend, in one weekend.
Oh, accidents?
Five, yeah. One in Aruka, which was on the bus route with two vehicles colliding by the Aruka police
Oh,
station. That weird intersection, which is the
some guy.
strangest intersection on the planet.
Right. I think it
The
was
one with
some
the bus
a
route
truck
and the
and a
eastern
bus,
main road
a
cross each
truck and
other.
a maxi. Is that the one with the truck and the maxi?
There's a truck. I got a SUV. Yes. It is.
What?
Yeah. No, Steve, we were talking about the Aruka accident.
Yes. You're right. I read that one. I read that.
I also saw pictures of a
Oh.
Maxi and a TNTech truck having a collision. Right. So in any case, and a woman in Couva and then another person in Central. I mean, so the road fatality toll went to 48. In one weekend, we lost 5 lives. Really, really sad.
Wow.
How can you say there's no traffic management? You're saying there's no traffic management. That means that is an incorrect statement. You may find there's inadequate traffic management, but you can't say there's no traffic management.
So who you want to see that in tow truck? You want the tow truck sweep up that? Okay, I had to check on that. I'm not sure if that occurred in the US. But you said three people lost their life by a Ruka police station on the bus route? Because Ruka police station is on the bus route. It is very, very confusing for some people. Because it's almost like a five-way intersection, you know? Yeah. Yeah, it crisscrosses and then there's the road coming out from Aruka itself by the church there. Yeah. Oh, wow. Getting a messenger call. Facebook messenger call coming through. I know the song. That didn't happen. But this weekend had so much rain. Because yesterday it was so bad by me here in Arima that a lightning storm knocked out the electricity. For hours we didn't have electricity here. It was that bad, you know? So, but yeah, you're right. Plenty people drive crazy on this road, and especially on wet roads. I don't know why, because the roads are, you're getting puddles of water on almost every road you drive on now. You understand? Because of the runoff, you're getting puddles of water, but people just not taking their time. I'm sorry. Yeah. I came through some water at the edge of the at South Key yesterday by that Mosquito Hotel. I came through some water there and into City Gate and so on. I swear somebody was filming me. I saw a guy walking and I'm sure he was aiming his phone at me coming through the water and filming me. I'm sure that is what he was doing. But there were people turning around, but the water wasn't very high, so I took my chance and well, if I can't come through the water in that vehicle, well, then nobody can go through it. But I sure a guy was filming me. I'm seeing some information coming up on the screen there now. They're offering $75,000 for information. Is that on the Galil rifle?
Leading to the arrest and prosecution. So really and truly, if you get information and the court case fall apart, you
So
ain't
they
get no
really
money.
do have a clue then.
People are saying they're not hearing Steve on YouTube again. Can't do anything about that.
Okay.
That's something in the system in the office.
Yeah, because this is the second. All right. I don't know. Oh. Anyway, what else is happening in the news? Screening continues in the People's National Movement. Today, Port of Spain Corporation will be
And
screened.
the United National Congress.
Well, I'm not aware that they're doing screening. Are they? I
Well,
thought
I
they
saw
had,
both
I
on
thought they
the
had screened all the people already.
I saw both parties putting up posters of their screenings over the
Okay,
weekend.
I haven't seen any from the UNC. My apologies, Mrs. Prasad Bisesa and the UNC, who continues to lose people daily, because I think the fourth councillor defect over the weekend. A guy from San Fernando now has defected, and they're saying that they didn't. They are saying the people defected because they wasn't getting to go back up. UNC has taken now. UNC is clever and quick on the ball. They say they got wind that they're not going back up, so they defected and going to the PNM. But the PNM will screen Port of Spain, Samuel Laventil and Port of Spain today at Cascadia. So we did a pre-screening yesterday, so I spent almost the entire day in Port of Spain yesterday doing our pre-screening, and it went very well. It went very, very well, So today they will go before the executive screening committee, and there the final decisions will be made, and we take it from there. Politics, politics, politics. Every time I think I could get away from it. So I think the screening will continue during the course of this week. I think by the end of this week, they'll probably have all the candidates selected. And then I won't be surprised if you hear the date for that election pretty soon.
You're saying that a week and a half now.
Huh?
You're saying that a week and a half now.
Well, there's still some time, There's still some time, because as I
Really?
say, when you count backwards from August 18th, you have to count backwards from August 18th. And backwards meaning a minimum of 35 days. That's how I've judged it. I've looked at it that way. If you count backwards from
Well, in a
August,
real sense, based on the Privy Council ruling, we should be counting from December 2nd last year.
well, you couldn't do anything. You can't do anything about that, because the government was operating within the law during that time until the Privy Council made
With
their
the
ruling.
false notion that they had the power to do what they did.
Well, they did, because the appeal court here gave them that right. So they had to wait on a Privy Council ruling. You understand? So they were
And that's
operating.
why I said, in an overall sense, when all is said and done, we should be counting from December 2nd. We couldn't know what we didn't know then. You're
Well,
right.
they would have had
But
to
in an
legitimize.
overall sense, it should have been from December 2nd, 3 months, and we'd have passed this already.
Well, what would they have? What should they have done from December?
Hindsight, 2020 vision. I understand. We can move on.
Yeah. Okay. As long as you accept that they had to legitimize that period, they had no choice. But again, my thing is that local government is not part of the constitution, and these things going to happen. And no government who has come into power ever proposed that it be part of the constitution. So all of them is the same when it comes
Which
to
I don't really understand, to be very honest. I don't understand why. I don't understand what's the reason for not doing that. What are we going to lose by doing that, as opposed to what we can gain?
I don't know either. I've asked that question on many occasions.
Is there a constitutional clash that will take place? I don't know. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
Maybe there's some legitimate reason why they haven't gone that way, but I just don't understand why.
Nobody has explained it, because I have asked the question at public forums and nobody has answered. So whatever happened to local government happened.
Anyway,
At the end of the day.
the big question this morning continues to be the missing, as of news time last night and 6 this morning, the missing Galil rifle from the Trinidad Tobago Defense Force. I'm going to share the video again for those who may have joined us a bit late.
Yeah.
The video has a graphic that says a soldier stole the rifle. We have no information to confirm that, but the camp, as we understand it, is still on lockdown.
Of the viewing public, as indicated, I am Lieutenant Colonel Ashok Singh. I am the acting commanding officer of the Trinidad and Tobago Regiment, and I was alerted early this morning of a missing Galil assault rifle from the Support and Services Battalion, Tetran Barracks in Chagaramas. At approximately 12:30 hours this morning, the orderly officer, who is the senior person on duty at Tetron Barracks, was alerted by a person who was on duty and would have been assigned a Galil assault rifle that his rifle was missing. The orderly officer immediately conducted the standard operating procedures or SOPs for such incidents and immediately confined Tetron Barracks. Tetron Barracks remains confined at this point in time as we continue the investigation. The orderly officer also conducted an immediate search of the location, started a preliminary investigation, and alerted her commanding officer. Earlier this morning, with the advent of more light, a thorough search was again conducted of the vicinity, but the Galil assault rifle was not found. We alerted the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, Western Division in particular, of the incident, and they are currently at Tetron Barracks working alongside us in conducting this investigation.
I wish I could train him all to speak, but he wasn't bad.
Yeah, he wasn't bad. But
line with him.
yeah, but so one man and his negligence caused a whole
his negligence?
Well,
You're being very kind.
Well, yeah, I can't say anything else at this point in time.
You're being so kind. Negligence. Okay.
You lose a Galil rifle, and
that's negligence. You know what people like Galil rifle could kill? That's negligence. Okay.
Well, it must be under some mattress somewhere, or they must be thrown it in the sea. But what I'm saying, he caused everybody to be locked down. You know how pissed some men go be because of that.
They can miss the turn.
They can't move. They can't
They'll
move.
miss the turn.
Huh?
They'll miss the turn.
Oh. I tell all you, I could say this now because Martin Joseph is now deceased, right? And I've said it before. When Martin became Minister of National Security, and he has been the country's longest serving Minister of National Security, right? But when Martin became Minister of National Security, as far as Martin was concerned at the time, he said, I thought we were going to fix the police service. He told me, Wendell, the Army and Coast Guard and them are just as bad. Those were his words. They are just as bad. The police was more out in the public. People were reporting on the police. But he said everything needed fixing. And he went about fixing it. Trust me. Ah, dear Lord. What do you do?
It's the most unfortunate situation we find ourselves in because it doesn't speak particularly well to the public about the significant law enforcement agencies. Well, law enforcement is police, but the significant national security agencies in the country and how they're being run. It doesn't sound good at all, and you understand when you hear this why we have the kind of problems we have in crime in Trinidad and Tobago. Because if their systems are not up to mark, it means they're not operating effectively and efficiently. If internally you have this kind of problems, how are you fighting crime?
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, it's 6:45. Let's go through the newspapers this morning.
Yeah.
It is Monday, the 5th of June, 2023. Good morning to you. Let's start with the Trinidad and Tobago Guardian. Troubling Defense Force camp. Galil goes missing at Tetron. And soldiers shoot up. We didn't mention this part. Presidential vehicle from inside the vehicle. The president was nowhere near the vehicle, at my understanding, is because I read the story. But there was some shot fired inside the vehicle. If you think the rifle part is, oh, yes.
What detail happening?
Should I go through the story just a bit to give some context, lest people feel, again, the president was nowhere there, right? And this is the Guardian. Extensive investigations are ongoing in 2 major incidents involving the TT Defense Force within weeks of each other. Now, you see why they had the press conference, Wendell? It seems like the systems are falling apart. So we spoke about in detail about the missing rifle. Also, down later in the story, Guardian Media was told that 3 TTDF members, 2 Lance Corporals and a private, were transferred following an alleged incident where one of the vehicles belonging to the presidential fleet, a blue panel van, was shot from the inside.
The
It
food
is
van.
believed the vehicle perhaps may have been left in the compound, during which one of the soldiers was playing with his gun. I shouldn't be laughing. It's a serious story.
Yeah, it's serious.
But that figuratively went crazy in my head there.
Yeah, I know.
When the gun went off, he's playing with his gun, and the gun went off.
He was playing with a gun. You can't
He
say
was
playing
playing
with
with
his gun.
his gun.
That's what the story said? Playing with his gun?
I'm reading from the story. And the gun went off. As tends to happen if you're playing with a gun.
Well, not if you're playing with your own gun.
Well, it's his gun. So
all right, okay.
I'm going to read the story. Oh, God. You couldn't resist it. And shot the vehicle from inside, which is what happens to sometimes if you're playing with the gun.
Yeah.
It will shoot the vehicle from inside.
Yeah.
When it was brought back onto the president's compound, they tried to fix it. Which means they probably didn't report it. The president's aide-de-camp got privy of what happened and launched an investigation, which means they didn't tell the president's office nothing, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, if talk about a breakdown in protocol, procedure, you understand? And the army is supposed to be one of the most disciplined, regimented, no pun intended, institutions in the country.
Yes.
So the trending stories in the Guardian: trouble in the Defense Force camp, businessman ambush, killed outside supermarket, sadly. UNC defector approved as PNM Arima candidate. Cousins killed in a Ruka smash-up, sad news. Supermarket owner shot dead. Man 40 killed, 3 hurt in Laventille drive-by shooting. UNC councillor quits due to lack of plan to regain power. And cops probe the death of a 7-week-old baby. So those are just harrowing stories this morning. Let's move now to the Express. Army rifle missing. Razor on hold. The Commissioner of Prisons has been restrained by order of High Court from taking any action to enforce a clean-shaven policy for employees at the service. Migrant rape under probe. Hilux crashes into parked truck. Hairdresser dies. Businessman gone down at Petit Cafe. Judge to rule an injunction regarding government from substituting customs and excise with the Inland Revenue Division and the TNT Revenue Authority. A guard, a gun, and a dog, and exposed by Ria Tate. Back of freed of charges after cop fails to show file missing. Another missing file. Revenge porn victims powerless. And this is the story before the update in the press conference yesterday. Coast Guard men beat and raped me. So those are the Express stories this morning. What did I do? I did Guardian and Express. Let me move to the news day now. Ex-PNM, ex-UNC councillor Gidhari wants a second chance. Wilson wins Superintendent Alexander thankful for public concern over his well-being. Wassa sues Vancouver woman for Facebook statements and video. Bandits make off with over 1 million in corned beef and cheese. Missing assault rifle goes missing. Army assault rifle goes missing. Home invasion in Barrackpore, couple left penniless. Molinal distances himself from PLM senators PAL job at UNC Senator. So those, my friends and colleagues, are the trending stories this Monday, the 5th of June, 2023, when we started the rainy season clearly.
Yep. How did they come up with $1 million in cheese and corned beef? How did they come up with that kind of value?
They may have asked the supermarket owners.
$1 million? You know $1 million in cheese and corned beef? You don't even hear about $1 million in alcohol.
So the question this morning is, do you think the AR rifle will be found, the missing AR rifle will be found by the TTDF? Well, that's the big story this morning.
Hmm. Okay.
If you're talking to people on YouTube, I'm not hearing you.
Yeah, YouTube not hearing you. See. All right, so good morning to Master Rock, Riri. What was the other names? Edwin Marshall and
You're
all
going to
you.
Morgans, Kazim Mohammed, Lando, Edwin Marshall, Guy Small, Carrie Goddard, uh, H.S. Wilson, Ingrid Adams, Michael Grandison, Carol Guevara, Ray, and Marcia Rock, all and everyone on YouTube this morning, this Monday morning. Glad to have you with us this morning. So our question this morning is, do you think the missing AR rifle, but it's from the TT Defense Force, will actually be found?
Yes or no? That's our poll. Yeah, I can do that. DS Lips. Okay. No, that is Dinsley. Mhm. Yep, we're taking your calls 222 talk 2228255, and of course you can send in your messages on the message board. Do you think the missing Galil rifle will be found? That's our question this morning. A rifle has gone missing, and Tetron Barracks is on lockdown as we speak. Well, at least up until the last press conference. The barracks has been locked down. The police are also involved in the investigation along with the TTDF. Right? So, do you think that the rifle will be found? And the poll, I have to tell you, it's dead even at this stage. I see a roti bacchanal brewing too. Well, I see Jason has issued an apology to the lady, but it's really his picture, that's what he's saying. She accused him of stealing her picture, when in fact he proved that it was his picture. So, but it just got, people are so testy on Facebook. That's why I take a break, you know. People are so testy now on Facebook. When you put up something, they come on your status and they want to. I tell them make their own status. You have a problem with my status? Go and make your own. You understand? Don't come here to insult and disrespect nobody on my status. I don't tolerate it. You understand? I delete your comment if you anytime you go down that road. And if I had to delete you, that's exactly what I'll do. My Facebook is my place to relax, do my little politics, and spread my messages every now and then. You understand? About Rumbox or whatever I feel to do. Don't come with your moral nonsense on my Facebook or with your fanatical nonsense on my Facebook page. I ain't allowed it. Sorry. And you have your own page? Go and make your own posts. So we still taking your calls and your messages. Do you think the missing Galley rifle will be found? Yes or no? Some old soldiers messaging there. They're very confident. Because if uh, of course Richard had his play in Tobago this weekend, so probably he's still on his ship or the boat or something. Coming back. They might be still slurping Heineken here in the cast. I'm sure. I'm sure. But why isn't there a commander for the cadet force? Isn't that? Is that one vote of no? All right. 222 talk 2228255, and of course you can send your message via the messenger message board. Do you think the missing Galil rifle will be found? Yes or no? Morning, Mr. Patrick. No. Yeah. Clearly. Which is probably why the police involved. What was his vote though? All right, morning, Christy. All right. Yes, I got those. One more no and one more yes, right? So, all right. So our poll this morning was: do you believe the Galil rifle that went missing from the Tetron barracks will be found? We had 23 people weighing in on our poll this morning. 13 said yes, 10 said no. I'm a bit surprised of that poll, I have to tell you that. 13 people said yes, the rifle will be found, and 10 said no, it will not. You know, it was actually very even for most of the poll, and then the yeses took over. All right. So that's the result of our poll this morning. All right. I think we have. Do we have an interview this hour?
Where you find the gun yet?
Is it that they're saying that no report came to them? Is that what the police said? What I heard in the news clip? That they got no report?
They said after interviewing several Venezuelan women detained at the heliport recently, no reports of sexual exploitation were made. In April this year, a 21-year-old Venezuelan woman claimed she was beaten and raped by Coast Guard officers while she was detained at the heliport immigration station. She claimed being dropped off by the roadside after being abused. Claire Guy Allen gave information on the course of action taken during the investigation. So I don't know if that means the police have not confirmed what the allegations are or if investigations are ongoing. National security is in their kind of turmoil this now.
Oh, there's nothing like homemade bread in all here. Trust me. I bought a bread from a reputable place a while back, right? And I didn't finish eating the bread. It was a butter bread, like a flat bread. And I kept that bread in the plastic that it came in for 2 weeks, and not one piece of mold came on it. The bread remained intact, white as ever. It was unbelievable. I said, but this bread not spoiling. And I deliberately kept it there because I'm saying, no, normally bread's supposed to spoil by now. And the bread refused to spoil.
I have a question for the audience. You could just message us. Did you all hear Avi on the news? Those who were not hearing Steve, did you hear Avi? If you could let us know, please. All right, so if you were listening at 7 o'clock, did you hear Avi? Because people are still you're not hearing Steve. So Steve and Avi came out of the same studio and the same system.
That's a good question.
But Steve, if they're not hearing you, they're not going to hear that question you just asked there, would they?
You see,
All right, on the app you're going to hear. If on YouTube, did you hear the news with Avril St. Hill Bab? We'd like to know, please. Trying to sort out a bit of a technical issue here in the studio. We're trying to find the source of the challenge. All right. It's less problems. It's less problems than the TC Defense Force and the police and the Coast Guard have now, but Carol said no. You see? So yeah, it's a studio problem. We apologize for that. We're working to have it resolved. No, we apologize to those people who are hearing Steve. It's not in my settings, sir. It's at the studio. Oh God, this is too much work. It's Monday morning. Hope you're having a great morning so far. 7:16. The numbers are 222-TALK, 222-8255, 612-8255. North Americans toll free 866-525-1099. All right, I'm going to take some of your calls even while we're interviewing this goodly gentleman who is steadying his camera, so I would put him on until he steadies his camera. You know, he hasn't put on the lights in his home yet, so he's walking quickly through the household to get to the desk. So I won't but his talent is so agile. He pick up the phone with his mouth and he's walking with the computer in his hand. If I could show you all this.
all of that Mariano doing on film, on camera.
Yeah, it's right. He was very, 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 very. I had to put him on now because he seemed to be settled. Very, very talented. I didn't know you were that talented, Mariano Brown. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
I was telling you, I was looking at your agility, you know. You're walking with the computer through the dark room, you pick up the phone with your mouth, and very, very talented.
Well, they're young, that's why. Yeah, so you have to wait. I can't make Mother Nature work any faster than she already is. So,
Good morning. How are you this morning?
How are you? Not too bad. How was your weekend?
Quiet. We're doing better than the TC Defense Force this morning.
Well, you're only missing one gun. It could have been worse.
We're missing one gun that they know about.
Yeah. Well, I think at this stage of the game, they'll now go and look to check.
Well, they said a couple of weeks ago they accounted for all their ammunition that was reported to be missing. So if the gun can be missing, I wonder what else is missing. Anyway, I guess they'll run their hopefully thorough investigations and find the weapon because it's a dangerous weapon to be unaccounted for.
Well, they didn't really have to tell us all about it either, you know. So you have to thank them for transparency.
Well, they didn't have to tell us about it, but information about it went viral on social media before they had the press conference. So the press conference was damage control.
Oh, okay, I got it.
Yeah, and the fact that it involved police, they know very well it was going to come out. Once the police involved, it's coming out.
All right, well.
All right, so we're talking to start with property tax this morning.
Yes.
And the valuation bill was passed in the Senate on Friday, in the House before that. In large respect,
sorry, what date are they using as evaluation?
They had a formula whereby when they got to, like he explained it, but I'm going to paraphrase here as best I can if I'm not misquoting. 50% of the valuation in any particular of the four categories: residential, commercial, industrial, and agricultural. They are not starting with agricultural, commercial, or industrial at the moment. They're starting with residential. So I think when they get to 50% of residential, which I think they're at now, they can start. So I think the minister indicated that they at that point, I hope I'm not misquoting, now. And the reason, because a specific question was asked about why not industrial and commercial, and they said, well, the assessment of plant value in those situations were going to be a bit more challenging. So he gave a commitment of about a year, 2024, to start those, and agricultural later on. So I think, if I'm remembering correctly, he also indicated that it will not be retroactive. So persons don't have to worry about paying the 13 years back or whatever it is. It's from when they start, they will start applying the protocols.
Perspective will be moving forward.
Yeah.
Well, that's a sensible decision, because politically, to go back and tell people they had to pay for 13 years would have been a little ridiculous. So I think that's the only practical and sensible decision that could be made in these circumstances. So that's a positive thing moving forward.
I think so too, and I think people would have. You're right. It would have been politically difficult for them, and people would have said, "Well, it's not we say we wasn't paying it. We were told it was on sabbatical, so to speak."
The problem was a political problem. The problem was not the citizens' fault. So they ought not to be.
No, Mariano, I had raised this the other day. I raised this, I think, on Friday. Because you were part, if I'm not mistaken, you were part of that cabinet at the point in time when
Yes.
the property tax, right?
It would have been part of leading the charge.
Right. Why wasn't the decision? Well, why wasn't it continued? Because we were paying land and building taxes at the time and house rates, if I remember.
Yes.
Why wasn't that continued whilst the new system was put in place? Why was it actually stopped?
Well, first of all, they have been experimenting with the new system for quite some time. Most people don't know that. All right, so we ended up with a situation where people in Point Fortin and San Fernando, which were part of the experiment, were paying tax on the basis of the new system. So they were paying considerably more tax than anybody else in the country. All right, and it was felt that it was time to equalize it. Having spent time developing the system and working the system out, it was felt that, and those were like 2 pilot projects. So that I don't want to refer to them as guinea pigs, but the people in the pilot project had lived through it. There were no untoward arguments or difficulties with the system. So it was felt that the system could work at that time. Now, property tax, once we passed the bill, and you have to look at the legislative positioning. There were a number of pieces of legislation which date back to somewhere around 1969, somewhere between 1965 and 1969, which anticipated changing the basis of valuation and the basis of collecting tax. All of those pieces of legislation had to be voided, including land and building taxes. You can't have 2 taxation systems in position. So once the property tax was passed, the property tax included 2 steps: to void all the pieces of legislation that enabled land and building taxes, and all the other pieces of legislation which anticipated changes in the taxation framework. Once those were voided and taken off the books, then you only have 1 piece of legislation, and that piece of legislation was the property tax. So you couldn't go back to land and building taxes without revoking Property Taxes Act to reinstate Land and Building Taxes Act.
Okay,
and understanding all of the conversations, nobody was prepared to go back to land and building taxes despite all the political will talk.
Yeah, because I was wondering why it had to be stopped whilst the other one was introduced, but you just explained why.
Yes, but you can't have 2 systems of taxation.
Yes,
so taxation must be clear, it must be transparent, and it must be understood by everyone. So you can't have 2 systems in position, especially 2 systems with 2 completely different bases of tax. We had allowed the Point Fortin Borough Council, as well as the San Fernando Borough Council, to have done these pilot projects. And having done these pilot projects and lived through those pilot projects, which were essentially the basis for property tax and the property tax legislation, the whole idea was now to consolidate it and make it universal. And by universal, I mean the same taxation structure for everybody.
Yeah, right. But on Friday, we had a couple callers, one caller in particular, who had said that why should he have to pay more on his property that he improved and the neighbor paying less on a property that they did nothing with? And he
Well,
found
let me add to that before you answer, Mariano. The approach taken in valuation was rental value of the property.
Correct.
So that's what there are several approaches that could have been taken in terms of valuation. The approach the government chose was rental value, which led out from when there's question about if somebody improved their property and added another 2 rooms, the rental value would improve, and they felt they were being penalized for being frugal and investing in their property. What are the advantages and disadvantages of using rental value for the property assessments?
Well, at the end of the day, there are several different bases of valuation. You can value it on what is called annual rentable value, or you could value it on what is known as site value improvement. Site value improvement is a look at the capital cost of the building and whether it has been improved. So what's the base cost? And if that's the base cost at one particular date, any changes between point A and B, property additions and so on and so forth, are considered to be part of the improvement in value. Now, so that improvement in value could be taxed as part of the capital value, or alternatively, you could pick it up in terms of what one would call income, the income value. Because by definition, if you improve your property, the value of your income will also, the value of the rentable value of your house will also go up as well. Now, at the end of the day, the person who is making an improvement to the property is also benefiting from the local, whatever systems that we have in place that allow property improvements. And the critical issue, any increase in property income along those lines, from a taxation point of view, is something that ought to be captured. That's the basis of taxation. So, for example, one of our difficulties, and just take the income position. So, you as an income earner, if your income goes up from 5,000 a month to 10,000 a month, you would have improved yourself. You could have gone and gotten a degree, you could have done an XYZ, whatever else it is. The rate of taxation will remain the same, 25%. But you will be paying twice the amount. You understand? The same thing applies with regard to the value of your property. The bottom line is that it creates income potential. Now, part of the reason
which is why Richard I'm thinking Richard might be on because of that noise I'm hearing. Which is why Richard is of the opinion that if you owner occupied, then shouldn't have to deal with that.
Owner occupied, no, the bottom line is what you call it, is imputed value. The value of the property has gone up whether you're in owner occupation or not. Right? The government, the local corporations still have to undergo and still have to take the same sort of pay for all of the improvements, all of the benefits that they provide. So the same token, so whether it doesn't matter whether you're in occupation or is being rented, the bottom line is that whatever else is taking place in the society, it accrues to you as a benefit. Right? So that it attempts to be, how shall I put it? Not only universal, but equitable in that position. The presumption is, if you have improved your property, then by definition, you're in a position to earn more money. And guess what? The presumption of taxation is a progressive form of taxation. Once you earn more, you pay more.
Yeah.
Well, that's presuming you're renting your property. If you improve your property,
it doesn't presume that. It presumes that you have the benefit of it. And if you have the benefit of it, then by definition, you're in a better position. You have improved. And by definition, a portion of that improvement should accrue to the state. That's the basis on which it's done.
Yeah, I think I understood that the mere fact that you could have improved your property means that you probably would be earning more.
Correct.
In any event.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or you could have saved more.
Now, taxation systems can be designed to do different things. In some countries, for example, they have designed taxation systems. So, for example, if you don't improve your property, the taxation becomes heavier. In other words, we want to see growth. It depends upon what you're designing the taxation system to improve. In this particular instance, the idea is to improve the income that goes towards it. By the way, the maintenance of the records for land has to be paid for. Who should pay for it?
True.
The
So
state,
the changes in the infrastructure of the area has to also be paid for. So we have to factor all that in.
changes in infrastructure, and this is a fundamental of taxation systems across the world. For example, in other more developed countries, if you have a house and your house is located in a particular area, and a mall comes to the area, or they put in a new school, right, or they put in X or they put in Y, property taxation goes up. The reason being that your site value has improved by the virtue of these improvements and the collateral benefits that have taken place around you. Right? So those increase. It's a fundamental principle of taxation.
Well, it's about taking care of the society through different ways. Mariana, what are your thoughts on now? Because one of the arguments for the resumption of the property tax, or taxes related to property, is the issue of the regional corporations collecting and using that to provide the services for the burgesses. In many cases, people have no problem with that. But the issue is the regional corporations have not been particularly efficient in the past. There was a suggestion, well, they didn't have the money to do it. But there are also governance, accountability, and transparency issues associated with these regional corporations. And your thoughts on if you think that the systems are in place to ensure those safeguards and governance issues.
The same point that you make about local government, you could make of central government. There is absolutely no distinction between the two in that regard, right? The central government is no more efficient than the local government in that, from that perspective. And part of the reason for introducing local area taxation, which is what property tax is, right, is that it requires, it demands that the burgesses take an interest in how the corporation is run and how those benefits accrue to the society in which they live, right? So that, in a sense, once you pay money, and that's the whole idea of a citizen, you are invested in the country, so therefore you want to see it run better, right? So therefore you have to take an interest in terms of asking those questions.
Which is what I told them Friday. I said, when you have to legally pay this money, don't sit down and take quiet and grumble to yourself, Go and demand it. Go and demand it. Don't sit quiet and grumble with your neighbor how the trash ain't collected, the road falling apart, this and that. I said, go and demand it.
And let's deal with some of those issues. All right. Now, land and building taxes, when it was first introduced, was introduced on landowners to generate income to build government schools. That's why it was first introduced back in the 1800s, right? In the 19th century. That was why it was first introduced. So it was always associated with improvements in the society surrounding the areas where you live. Right now, it was an agricultural society then. So that's why the tax was done on the basis of landholding. Right? But the society has changed considerably since then. Right? And we've also in a position, we broke out Trinidad and Tobago in a grid. So we know how many pieces of property are owned. And there are over 400,000 pieces of property. So the whole idea of property tax is specific to the particular property that you own, that you have an interest in. And therefore, by definition, you now have an interest in terms of what is taking place in that area. Now, the question is, and has always been, whether the taxation is going to be sufficient to run local government. Local government gets about $1 billion plus from the central government. But if you compare that to what you used to get from land and building taxes, that's $140 million. Now, $140 million can't pay for garbage collection in the country. Garbage collection in 2008, the total value of garbage, the cost of garbage collection for local government was $250 million. So $140 million wasn't even paying for garbage collection. Far less for the other kind of healthcare that you're supposed to follow. When I say healthcare, I'm talking about local area, mosquito, the mosquito vector unit, or clearing of the drains, or clearing of this and clearing of that, and so on. All of which are specific to the relevant corporation. Now, how the corporation spends this money and how efficient it is a function of two things. One, the councillors and the management structure in position, and two, the kind of pressure that you get from the burgesses who are around you. And quite frankly, if I pay money, I want to see how it's going to be used and used for my benefit. Right? So the real issue, to my mind at this stage, is the property tax going to be sufficient to be able to run the corporations, or are they going to be depending on central government?
But I was going to ask that question. Do you expect central government to continue putting the same levels of funding into the local government ministry? And in addition to that, because the regional corporations are collecting and managing their own funding based on collections of revenues for property tax from the burgesses, what is the role of the minister in those regional corporations in terms of administering local government?
Right. What's the role of the minister of local
But
government?
there will be a shortfall naturally.
But there are about 3 issues here. There are 3 issues. A central government and politicians are driven by how their constituents respond. So that there will always be a tendency on the part of central government to spend money on its priorities, which puts the local government authorities in a difficult position because they are dependent on the central government. Now, the fundamental thing that we really have not talked about and nobody is raising is how we manage our taxation revenues. And what do I mean by that? Right? If, for example, all the motor vehicle taxes and all the taxes on fuel were, for example, go into a separate fund, which is for road maintenance, would our roads be better managed? But we would have a way of eyeballing the amount of money that is put aside or that you as a consumer pay on this particular area. And you should also be able to analyze it in the sense that are the fellows who have the big trucks that mashing up the road, are they paying a bigger share, or am I paying proportionately a higher share for
But it all goes into the consolidated fund.
But that's the point I'm making, right? Now, from a central government point of view, right, central government is always interested in terms of how much money it has available to it. So that's why I'm saying it will allocate toward its highest priorities and then pass off the monies to the rest. Now, the local government is always likely to be on the wrong side of that particular footing. There's some knowledge and some understanding that I have to give local government money. But the question is, how much am I going to give them? And by the way, there's some other issues here. CPEP and URP exist alongside local government, in local government areas. Are the efforts and work that is being done by those 2 particular entities, are the efforts and organization being done by those two entities sufficiently coordinated with local government bodies so that it makes sense? Or do we have overlap? Now, nobody's asking those type of questions, but that's the question, right? Because between CPEP and URP, we're talking about $1.4 billion, which is about the same amount that goes to local government, right? So you have a program at central government level, which we would consider to be some form of assistance program coinciding alongside and in local government, but there's no coordination between them. Does it make sense to do that? Now, those are the kind of questions that people should really be asking, and those are not the questions they're asking. Everybody complaining about my rate and I have to pay. What we're really talking about is the expenditure being managed efficiently. That is not the question people are asking. That is the question that should be asked.
Yeah. Because of the way local government bodies are constructed in terms of the actual corporations, the 14 municipal corporations, and some are under PNM control and some are under UNC control, with this new system, do you expect challenges because of those political differences?
But they're not going to change those political differences. Those political differences have always existed, right? So,
but the difference now is that the corporations are collecting their own money at some level.
Well, they always did. That's the point I'm making, but it was never sufficient, right? So the question has to do with allocation and management, right? And you raise the question about transparency and everything else that goes with that, the adequacy of management levels and so on and so forth. All of those questions apply. They apply to central government, they apply to local government. And that's one of the issues. I mean, we've been talking about local government reform for how long? Basdeo Pandit slowed the elections down for local government for the same reason. Patrick Manning did the same thing, right? What significant change have we had in local government apart from the 1990 Act, Municipal Corporations Act? Have we had any change? The answer to that is no.
Well, they have aldermen being elected now by proportional representation. They have offices now for councillors. They have a paid assistant. Some things have changed, but it just the issue of the funding for the corporations that hasn't, and that is what needs to change.
All right, so we have some local little ameliorations. Has it made the corporations, you are a corporation man, has it made the corporations function better?
No, I could answer that plainly. No.
Well, all right, so they are cosmetic and they don't deal with the key adjustments that need to be made.
Yeah, yeah. Which is why I'm all for the reform.
Well,
I'm all for it because I've been through all the different iterations of reform.
well, you've been all through the different conversations about reform.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
Because there's been no reform.
One of the things I have raised continuously, Mariano, and I'm going to raise it here with you because you, as I say, you were also part of that government that was doing the reform, is the issue of local government not being part of the constitution. No government has seen it fit to do that, to make it part of the constitution. So it really is at the women fancy of a cabinet at the end of the day. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't really have too many thoughts on it. I don't know how local government. Our country is a small country. They have no local government, for example, in Barbados. They have no local government in the smaller islands. But we do have it in Jamaica, Guyana, Trinidad, for sure. Now, we could argue because it's larger, and the whole idea of having local government is because it deals with local issues. Right? Are we sufficiently big to have local government? Right? And once you legislate it into the constitution, you institutionalize it forever. Now, one of the things that have happened since 1990, what are the changes you've seen in local government since 1990? Some of the regional corporations have actually gotten bigger. All right, they've extended. There's been development. All right, and not all of those developments have been equal. So, for example, Penal and Debe, all right, would probably have grown on Separia, would have grown far faster, and Shogunas, all right, would have grown far faster, and Couva would have grown far faster, for example, on Point Fortin. So there are disparities, there are regional differences between them. Right? Now, those regional differences, how would that imply? If we had them in a constitution, how would those regional differences now be structured? Right? So I don't know, and I can't make a decision on that. When I looked at the local government employment structures in 2009 as part of the reform movement, and I looked at skill sets at the level of local government, I had to ask myself, did we have adequate skill sets at the level of local government? Was it sufficient to do what they were supposed to be doing? I mean, like, for example, to get approval, you have to have somebody from the local corporation. They have to certify that the health characteristics of the area X, Y, and Z has been put into position, and so on and so forth. Correct?
Yes.
Then the civil engineering also needs some sort of input into that.
Yes.
Now the question is, are those structures sufficient? And are they sufficiently large? How do we address that from the point of view of adequately sized workforce to be able to train to deal with some of those issues?
Well, I think part of the reform bill, because I sat on the GSC, contemplates all of that because there's some professional positions contemplated, and in addition to the fact that some full-time counselor positions, etc. And I hear your point because, for example, Tunapuna Piako, because of the level of building and the level of oversight needed for supervision and building permits and building authorization, you certainly need more than one town and country engineer, right. And you're right.
And it has to, and the other thing about it is, and this is where overlap takes place, but when we speak about government, we generally think of central government, right? What is the overlap between the Ministry of Health and those areas, and how strong is the overlap in terms of how do they work together? Same thing with works, right? We know technically the corporations are responsible for secondary roads, technically, right? But sometimes you have more traffic on some of those secondary roads than you have in some of the main roads in those specific areas. So there are all different kinds of things that have to be considered from that perspective. So from my perspective, putting it in the Constitution, right, doesn't address the issue of the working arrangements between the working parts, right? So we think of local government as something that is separate and alone. And I'll give you an example from the Ministry of Trade. All licenses to import anything come to the Ministry of Trade. But there are 5 national bodies that are important in the granting of that license, right? It's food and drug, right, which falls under the Ministry of Health, right? Then you also have under the Ministry of Agriculture. Then you also have under the Ministry of National Security. I can't remember the 4th one. Right, Customs and Excise, right? All of those are signing authorities essentially before one license is given. And that was the whole idea of digitalization and putting TT BizLink. Because we've been talking about one-stop shop. Eric, we have talked about one-stop shopping since 1974. But it was never possible to get it done because of all the various linkages between ministries. And we tend to think of a ministry as something standalone. We tend to think of local government as something standalone, forgetting about the links that take place with central government. And to my mind, the biggest issue in terms of making the things work is that interdependence and how that interdependence is articulated in a seamless way. And quite frankly, when you look at all those houses which were built by the HDC and or UDCOT, what were the problem with the permissions again? Where were the problems? Did they have all the permissions? Where the permissions didn't come from?
The local government authority.
Oh my goodness. And the government was building it. You can imagine that? Imagine if government having that problem. What's the position with an ordinary householder fixing his house? Right? So I'm not interested in it, in the what you call. I'm not interested in it, whether it's in the Constitution or not. I'm interested in whether those functional links are working. But my position on that is that they're not working.
Mama, I hear that, but I have also made a case out, and I did it at a consultation in planning and development, that the city of Port of Spain, we have three building inspectors. With the amount of development that happening in Woodbrook alone, that would take. We have 1 building inspector for the west, 1 for the east, and 1 chief building inspector. With the amount of building that was taking place and changes that were taking place in Woodbrook, a building inspector could spend the whole month or year on 1 street in Woodbrook.
Right.
So we had made the case out that we needed more, and we never got it.
Well, I'm glad you told me that, because I have inherited. Well, I inherited a property, what you call it, Woodbrook, and it has to be rebuilt.
I know the property.
I bought it for my mother. Right. So she gave a portion of it back to me as my inheritance. So I have to fix it. But you understand the point I'm making. So I'm less interested in whether local government is part of the Constitution from the point of election and who adjusted the election and so on. I'm more interested in how do those mechanisms work.
The efficiency.
Correct.
I agree.
I had to go to town and country planning, then I had to go to the regional corporation, then I have to go here. I had to get a certificate from WASA.
But the reform is supposed to fix that. The reform is supposed to make it a one-stop shop. Because town and country planning, a lot of the problems exist at town and country planning too, eh?
Let me ask you this question. Well, there are problems that exist at government at all levels, right? And quite frankly, right, notwithstanding all the nonsense that we hear on the political platform, which government has seriously addressed the issue of fixing the operations of central government and or its HR systems? The answer is none. Yeah. The last time we had any kind of initiative to do anything was like Gordon Draper in 1992. And those initiatives were piecemeal.
Yes.
Right? As what you call it, yesterday I wrote a little article addressing some of those issues. And I asked the theme of the article asked the first question. Right? Who manages the HR function in the public service? Right? And most people will tell you, as you listen to the Prime Minister make a big statement on the platform about service commissions, everybody talking about service commissions. Well, the answer is no one. No one manages them. The service commissions only are responsible for less than 40% of the total number of people employed by government. That means 60% are being managed between permanent secretaries and ministers.
And
When you
CEOs.
have that kind of discordant management system, how do you expect anything to function properly?
Yeah.
But in two different administrations, they've proffered. I remember in the People's Partnership Government, Minister C. Prasad Bechan was talking about some diamond approach. Then now we see Minister West talking about some revision of the public service. So, but it's 16 steps forward, 25 steps backward.
And the people behind those conversations is still the same people. The bottom line is that there has been no continuity of effort or consistency of purpose between administrations. This is not unusual, right? But at some stage of the game, somebody has to bite the bullet. The country cannot develop if your civil service or your public service is weak. And if it's not functioning properly, I mean, we could talk about the ease of doing business forever, right? Tell me, what are you going to do tomorrow? You want to change your house, where you have to get permissions. You have to get about 6 different permissions from 6 different sources, right? Then you have to license your car to drive on the road. You have to, you have to, not only do you have to license your car and you have to get it inspected, you have to do all of those, but you have to have your driver's permit and everything else going on. They have nothing that doesn't involve the state. So if the state can't get its act together, it's unlikely that any of the other functioning entities that live and exist in this operating system are going to function efficiently.
There's some who suggested, Mariano, that over the years, in addition to the expansion of the public service, the PS system, whether it be the present stock of PSs or the PS system in general, the way it's constructed, is not as effective and efficient in managing the divisions under their remit as it was 40 years ago.
No system is perfect. No system is perfect. It may have been more effective 40 years ago, but even 40 years ago, there were complaints. It may have been effective 40 years ago because the system was smaller, right? It was designed to operate in a smaller environment. The environment has expanded. We moved from 700,000 to 1 point. The population of Trinidad and Tobago has doubled, right? More than doubled since independence. But let's assume that it's doubled. If you keep the same structures and you don't improve the structures, you expect them to perform the same way? There must be there must be constraints.
Yeah.
So
Mariano, would you mind taking a couple calls, especially on this year?
I have no problem with that.
All right, so we can open the lines with Steve.
Yeah, well, there's a split rate, and the answer to that is that it will be it's one property but used for split purposes, so they'll have to split the taxation calculation, right? Since only one is being implemented, they will only be paying on one side, which is the residential side. Of course, it's a possibility. Costs are going to go up. I mean, if the cost of living is going up for you, you don't think the cost of government is going up too? Of course it is. It must. Right? Because the same services you have to buy, government has to buy it, and then perhaps in different amounts and different quantities. So I am not. So let's accept the fact that taxation is a moving gate. You know what it presumes? It presumes that the economy will grow, and by definition that there will be changes across the board. and there will be different requirements at any particular point in time. Well, let's look at the value of a car. The cost of a car in 1986, right, was about $42,000. A lorry, a 2000 cc engine was about $42,000. What's the cost of a 42,000 cc engine now? For a 2000 cc engine now, right? About 360. It could range anywhere between 240 to 360, depending upon the type of car that you're buying.
That's all right.
Right? I mean, so that.
Do you expect this implementation of property tax to be a significant factor in the upcoming local government election politically?
Well, anything that costs money is a significant factor in an election, right? But the point is, and here's the point: it really doesn't matter which side says what. The bottom line is that they both have to implement property tax. So all of that is just grandstanding.
All right.
The answer to that is straightforward. Right? You have certain rights as a Burgess, right? If local government impinges your right, it don't matter about what happens in the future. You could take action now. Right? You could take action. It's just that the cost of legal action is expensive, so not very many people do that. They try to use the influence and get inside and talk and ask nice questions and so on. There are instances, for example, of people putting. So, for example, there are 5 houses on a street. The street is on a cul-de-sac. The corporation comes and drop a bin, right? And everybody decides to come and drop their rubbish there. Well, the 5 houses are disadvantaged as a result of that, because you have turned my street into a property dump, and you're not clearing it regularly, so it affects me. But of course, that's an actionable item. That's something that anybody could go to court at this stage of the game against local government. They don't have to wait for property tax to do that, right? But the point is that people are often afraid to take those type of decisions because it costs money, right? And if I take action against them, what they will do to me, will they pick up my guy? We're always afraid of the consequences. In other words, we think that we'll be victimized and dispossessed as a result of that. But there's nothing stopping anybody from taking action now.
Well, clearly there's a bank of Privy Council trained attorneys available to some now, so I don't see that as a problem.
And the point I just made, that I just gave you a live practical example that has happened there. It exists in Tego Martin in more than one area too.
Yeah.
Good morning, sir. Yeah, that's a valid concern, and no, I don't think there's anything in it. That's what you call market principles. Right? Price is what the market will bear, so that has to be negotiated out.
But there are provisions to persons who perhaps are on pension, where they can defer. I think the word they use is defer.
Oh no, there are provisions for people who have suffered hardship as a result of property tax to postpone it. The property tax doesn't go away, right? Property tax, and that's what the thing of property tax attaches to the property, right? So that the local government has always, including under land and building taxes, has always the right to levy on the property in distressed situations. In other words, if the taxes have gone unpaid for a long period of time.
Yeah, that's a fact.
That has not changed.
Yeah.
So you can postpone the tax, right? But the ability to reduce it or to zero is very limited.
Yeah. Which is
But
why
the minister,
when people going to buy a property, they use the term free from all encumbrances.
Conferences.
Yeah.
but the minister made a point on Friday to say that, for example, the example he gave was an elderly couple in pension. They have high medical bills. They can prove that. They can petition and have it deferred. What happens if that property is left to their children? Does it accrue and attach to the children who now own the property?
Yes.
Yep.
See,
I think anybody who has inherited a property would know that some of those things you have to deal with when you finally inherit it.
and that's what inheritance tax is about.
Yeah.
Inheritance tax seeks to ascribe and to capture value, right? And that's what we don't have inheritance tax in that way, but we do have debt duties and other things which do matter.
Yeah.
All right, Mariano, it's 8 o'clock. Thank you so much as usual.
Yes, thanks, Mariano.
Always a pleasure.
I get messages from countless people who saying they don't always agree with you and they really agree with you today.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
well, that's a good thing. All right. That means what? I can come back in the PNM and they'll vote for me?
Wow. Does that mean you're not in the PNM now?
No.
Does that mean you're not in the PNM now?
No, they treat me as though I am not.
Okay, all right.
Not me.
They're uncomfortable with dealing with me.
That's all right. They were uncomfortable with dealing with you when you were minister, so what is the difference now?
All right, well, it's true. Right, but the point is, do we need to fix it or do we not?
I think we need to.
Well, that's it. And that's where my head is at.
All right. Thank you, Mariano.
All right, you take